Another important thing that you can do with a program is learn how to synchronize the music to the actual video. Now there are two aspects to this. You can synchronize particular beats with particular points inside the video, and also you can find out how many bars of music to write for a particular length of video segment, and we'll handle that in another video. Here we'll just look at synchronizing. So I've loaded in a fairly random video that I'm going to randomly synchronize to this wired program that ships with Sony Music Studio 8. To load in the video, you go to File and you just open your particular video that you're after. That'll load in. To view the video, you need to go up to View, click on Video Preview, and then also make sure by right-clicking on it that you've got Display at Media Size. If that's not on, you may not actually have any vision at all. So just check on that if nothing's showing in particular. If we press play, we should see vision in there now. Now I've got the old soundtrack playing at the same time, so I'll need to stop that from playing. Then we'll try to find a sync point between the video and the music. If we look through the video, we can see that at this point we have a bird appearing, a toucan, one of my favorites. Perhaps we can find something relevant in the music that will coordinate with the bird. So you find the approximate spot. There's the bird appearing. Now you can actually get closer to that spot by moving the arrows on your keyboard, the left and right arrows. And I can actually get to an exact spot that way. Alright, now when you find that spot, press H on the keyboard and that'll give you an actual marker. The next step is to find a spot in the music that you actually want to coordinate with that. Now here you have to be careful, because if you actually move a spot that's too far away from there, you'll find that the music tempo will vary too much and you'll kind of destroy the music. I'll show you what I mean. It's kind of tempting here to go, well, the beginning of this piece might be a good spot to coordinate. It doesn't look too far away, so let's try that. Notice over here on the left that we've got 120 beats per minute for the music. Also notice when we're over the marker that we're sitting on 34 seconds roughly. If we move over here and we look at the timeline, and this is the absolute timeline, we'll see that the actual beginning of this music is at 30 seconds. So we're about 4 seconds away. That doesn't seem a lot, but you're looking at about over 10%. You vary the tempo by 10%, you're going to notice. I'll show you what I mean. We put the cursor over the point in the music that we want, and then we go back to the marker, right click it, and adjust tempo to match marker to cursor, and let's see what happens. So that point now that used to be at 30 is now sitting at 34, which means that the tempo has to go down because the music plays slower because of the greater amount of time. It actually looked like it shrunk, but what actually shrunk was the tempo line itself. So we'll just undo that, and here's the original speed. Okay, now the cursor's back to where it was. We'll go over the marker again, right click again, bring the two together. Tempo's gone down from 120 to 112. Let's see what effect that has. Sounds like we've been dancing all night and everything is slowed right down. That is not a good idea. So let's undo that. And let's look for something a little bit closer to the mark that we can actually bring in without upsetting the cart too much. So we'll expand that out, and I'll say rather than going all that way, perhaps we'll just go here. So bring the cursor to that point. That's at the beginning of a bar, and that'll still work. So we go right click, bring that together now. The tempo has only dropped to 119.5. We're not going to notice that. Did you see that? At the beginning of that bar, the bird came in. Let's see it again. Okay. Now if there's another sync point that we want, we have to be careful that we don't affect this sync point. The way to ensure that is to click back on it again to bring the cursor to that point and then press T. T will bring up a time signature tempo box, and it says at this point the tempo stays fixed at 119.5 regardless of what you might do further along the track. You can also change the key and change the time signature by setting it in this box at that particular time, but that's in another video. At this point, just know if we change the tempo at any other point, it'll stay fixed at that point. For example, there's another bird. Let's sync him in. So we'll pick that one and we'll keep working. Bird's beginning to appear there. Get our keys and say okay. Yeah, he's just coming in at that point. We'll get H onto the board and then we'll expand it out to see at what point we can get the music to synchronize with that. There we go. That doesn't look too far away. So we'll bring the marker cursor to there, click right on the marker, adjust the tempo. And we'll see now we've gone to 119.98. That's hardly noticeable. And yet we're synchronizing with particular points. Good idea at this point, every time you do that, just hit T, OK, and you know those sync points are fixed. We move back here now. You can see that we're sitting at 119.5. And then we've moved into 119.9. Maybe you noticed that, but most people wouldn't if they weren't particularly looking for it. And you can do that all along the track to synchronize each particular point to whatever's happening in the video. Another common problem is coordinating the end of the film with the end of the music. Sometimes it's only a few seconds away. So let's just pretend that the end of the film is here, just on that plant. I know it's longer, but if I do that, it won't be able to stretch out because there's too much of a time difference, and there'll be a big time difference anyway. But just for argument's sake, let's say it's there. It's the same system as before. You mark the video spot, let's say that's the end with a H. You go back to the end of the music, which is here with the cursor. You right click on the marker again, you adjust tempo to that, and there is the end of your video with the end of the music. Your tempo has gone down to 97, so it's going to sound horrendously slow, but it will synchronize. The thing is, if you're close, no one will notice, because remember before we were only out by a little bit on those bars. So the basic idea is to write the music at the right length. And in the next video, we'll see how you can do that. I'll see you then.